both campaigns are going to be speaking to this issue, but isn't the dirty little secret that neither can do anything to help this housing market?
Not on the timetables that matter for elections. There's no question about that. Yeah, this is one of the toughest problems we faced in a long time. We came into the pandemic and the tightening cycle that followed the policy errors with record low inventory in the residential sector, record low vacancies in the rental sector, and with the tightening of monetary policy, no real incentive to fix that problem. So it is a very, very tough nut to crack. Now, I just want to say, you always have to take 1 month's piece of data with a grain of salt. And indeed, the shelter number, 4.1% an annual rate, is the nettlesome part of this report. The rest is pretty solid. And I think people should not be confused and think this is a bad report. This is a good report. It indicates that the Fed is, again, closer to balance of risks on employment and inflation, can contemplate moving toward a more balanced monetary policy. And I think given the things they've said, they're likely to cut 25 basis points in September. That seems to be almost a lock at this point. I think the larger problem, the political problem, since that's this show, is that Kamala Harris as candidate owns the entire 43-month record of the Biden administration. And what you hear my good friend Jared Bernstein and Barat do is cherry pick the record. The record is that for 43 months, they've averaged 5.4% inflation, and wages have not grown at a 5.4% annual rate. So over that 43-month period, people went to work and got further behind. That is the problem that she owns and needs to deal with. The converse problem, just to finish, sorry about that, Kailey, Donald Trump is promising to lower prices. He's not going to do that. We are going to get inflation back to the 2% target, but food prices are not going to go back to their 2021 levels, and that is the reality that people are going to have to face. So neither of the conversations that are going on right now are leveling with people about the data.
Well, as we think about the conversations ongoing, Donald Trump is still currently speaking in North Carolina, and it seems that a lot of his ideas as to how to bring down inflation center around energy. He keeps coming back to this idea of drill, baby, drill, and deregulating. But Douglas, considering the U.S. is already producing a record amount of oil, does that go anywhere to solving the cost problem that people are facing?
No one's accused Mr. Trump of being a policy-rich candidate. And, this is something that he's latched onto for a number of years now. Certainly it comes from the administration's climate agenda and reduced leasing and limitations on LNG export facilities and things that got a lot of publicity. But the reality is the production of carbon-based fuels, particularly oil and gas, is very, very high. And so this is not the source of the inflation problem. The source of the inflation problem was enormous policy errors in 2021, massive fiscal stimulus that was way too much for what the system could bear, and a Fed that kept its foot on the gas throughout the year. And we're just undoing that, and it takes a long time. This is a great reminder that once you let inflation get embedded in an economy, it is a very painful thing to wring it out. And then we're in a 2.5-year process at this point.
Well, what if you make the Trump tax cuts permanent then with no way to pay for it? What does that mean for inflation in a Trump 2.0 White House?
We have seen the Biden administration just continue to do deficit finance spending, right? CHIPS Acts, student loan forgiveness, name everything they've tried. That's not helping the Fed. That is, at full employment, $2 trillion deficits. No one would recommend that as macro policy. To exacerbate it would be completely unwise. And so, I think the most pressing issue facing the U.S. that anyone can see is that there must be some action in 2025 on the sunsets of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. In the absence of action, we get a 4.2 over 10 years, $1 trillion tax increase. No one thinks that's a good idea. What then is the plan? How will one get from here now to the end game? And no one's talking about that. And that's what's really missing on policy platforms.